Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. Show number 54. And this is so exciting to have Wonder Bob here. And I met Wonder Bob through an amazing show that I was watching with David Nino Rodriguez. And I says, wow, a man that speaks my language. And so I jumped on social media and got a hold of him. And he said, yes, I would love to do a show. So we're going to do a series of shows, actually, and bring all of Bob's amazing wisdom forward for this audience. And hopefully you share it out if it resonates with you. And so, Bob, I'm going to get you to introduce yourself.
Oh, wonderful. So I'm Wonder Bob, and I got the name when I was 12 years old. I grew up in our family's construction business, and we had this really big project. It was a painting project on these condominiums. It was a lot of like hundreds of them, and the roofs were really steep, and we were climbing around on these roofs and trying to paint and do all that other stuff, and it was treacherous, and all of these grown men were I mean, we had to be careful, and I was just climbing all over everything, and I was painting, and I was accomplishing more as a 12-year-old than these guys were as an adult. So they were trying to give me some sort of superhero name or something like Spider Boy or something like that, and they came up with Wonder Bob. So that's how I got named. And then I've been a musician, also in the past, and that was my stage name. So and I played blues harmonica, and I'd write and do things like that. Uh so that came on. But then when it came to I wanted to step out of my lineage. I didn't like the lineage that I had come up through. I mean, we all have to like incarnate somewhere, and just remember, when we make that choice, we're trying to impact the world. And so we could incarnate into a beautiful family that's really wealthy, or movie stars or whatever, and we could live those lives, and we have. But am I really affecting humanity? So what we do is we all have this little magic kernel of magic within each of us, and we want to contribute that to the world. And so, in order to be effective, we will dive into the darkest, most awful place that we think that we can survive in, and we'll insert that magic kernel there. Our spark of light goes there, and then it goes up. So a lot of people say, hey, you can't choose your family, but absolutely you have chosen your family based on who you are as a soul and what your mission is. And so I did that. And so, when you look at yourself, a lot of people will take on this family trauma, but then you have to ask yourself, did you stop the cycles of abuse in your family? Or maybe did you stop the cycles of addiction in your family? Or did you stop the cycles of hate in your family? And so that's what we choose to do. And so once I did that, and I realized that I didn't have to be, I didn't want the signature of the family lineage, and I was liberating myself out of that. And I was trying to come up with a last name, and I just, it just wasn't there. And everybody goes like, no, you're Wonder Bob, you don't have a last name. So I don't have a last name. Wonder Bob's my legal name, and that's who I am. So ask and it is given is a fundamental law of the universe, and it begins with a question. That's how we talk to the universe. And if you can't remember the question, look at me. I am the living question, and that's what Wonder Bob is. So there you have it. How's that?
Wow. And you have quite a long spiel of who you are.
Yeah.
Galactic, what is it? Buddhist. Well, you gave who you are. You spieled off a whole bunch of different.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. So what? Uh, I understand what you're asking. Thanks. Um, so so my practice, I evolved at a point. I was pondering everything, and you know, I'd like to be clear with we're addicted to everything mental and cognitive in our society and this
Hmm.
reality, and we call that our stinking thinking. That comes from Zig Ziglar, by the way. He's a fabulous
Yeah, I know who
motivational
you're.
speaker.
Yeah.
I think he's dead now. He was from Yazoo City, Mississippi, and I love it when he was like, "Yeah, you gotta get rid of that stinking thinking." It was like, what is this guy talking about? And then and then we hear like analysis paralysis, and then we got this gerbil wheel, the monkey mind, the gerbil
Mhm.
wheel of impossibility. And so when we perceive consciousness, remember that consciousness includes everything. It's our body, it's our emotions, it's our thoughts, it's our spirituality, and everything beyond. So
It,
consciousness and awareness includes everything. And a lot of times, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, you're a spiritual teacher," and yes, that's true. And I'm also teaching body awareness, emotional awareness, mental awareness, and multidimensional awareness. And and so it's everything. So I call myself an everythingian. And so
everything.
in pondering, all of the wonderful traditions that people connect to the divine. I was pondering this, and I think it was in my 20s. And you come up through maybe whatever your tradition is. Mine was Christian, and at the same time I was coming up through a mystery school. I
Hmm.
was initiated when I was 13 years old, and it was based on Hermetic philosophy and the Knights Templar. And it's all about being inclusive and not being judgmental. And just because somebody's a Buddhist doesn't mean that they're not valuable. And if somebody's a Hindu, that doesn't mean they're not valuable. If somebody's a Muslim, that doesn't mean they're not valuable. And if you think about, the divine, in the beginning, God, period, that means that the divine included everything, absolutely everything. And I'm just going like, it makes no sense that the divine would forsake 1 billion Buddhists or 1 billion Hindus, or, it doesn't make sense. And I'm going like, okay, so how can I operate in a way, you know, that is inclusive, that does make sense? And so the question that I arrived at was, what if everything is true? If absolutely everything is true, now how can I change my theology and philosophy to fit that? And when that happened, oh my goodness, everything just opened up and exploded. And I just had all of this information and people and trainings and books. It just all came through. So I celebrate every single tradition, and 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 all of them have value, and there's 8 billion ways to connect to the divine, and every one of them are really cool. So let's learn from each other and see what's happening. So I call myself an everythingian. And what that turns into is I'm a Christed, galactic, interdimensional, Indija, Wicca, Hinda, Sika, Sufa, Buju. So that's what
So,
I am. So, and
yeah.
I've actually got that in a song, so it's kind of fun. So so I would encourage everyone to honor your tradition,
Mhm.
and if you're raised, Christian or Hindu or Buddhist or Muslim or whatever, or indigenous, or whatever it is, Zoroastrian, you know, you know, value that. That's a good foundation. It's a great place, but then at the same time be open, to learn more from all of these other wonderful traditions. Um and so if an indigenous person invites you go to a sweat lodge, show up, say yes, and show up. You'll really appreciate it. If a Jewish kid invites you to go to his bar mitzvah, show up and see how these people celebrate life. It's wonderful, and so on and so on. So always say yes. If somebody sends you an invitation, show up. And that's it's so rich and it's so rewarding if we do this. And and
I
it's
say
fun.
there's
It's
I say there's a gold thread in all religions or belief systems. Just find the gold thread. Just like there's
yeah,
beauty in each person, and usually if that's covered up, it's by the hurt from their childhood usually. So
yeah,
you got to find that but first in ourselves, find that beauty in ourselves. So yeah, it's funny, we were talking earlier about Masons. I held the keys to the Mason Hall in Calgary for, I don't know, 8 years. They gave me the keys because I used to run all my workshops there because we did sacred geometry of the face, face reading, body readings.
oh,
And
that's the perfect place to do sacred
I know
geometry.
that's what Hermann, my teacher, would say. They love us here because we're doing sacred geometry, but there was
Yeah,
no black and white tiles. These were really nice people. They were all, there was the blue room and the red room. And we usually had the red room, and they would
right.
do it. It was like $125 a day and free parking and a kitchen and a massive hall. So, I mean, they were very good to us. We used to joke
Yeah,
about them, wearing their aprons and the coffin in the
yeah.
back room, but it was a fake coffin, like it was it was just
Well,
made out
that's
of cardboard.
yeah. I mean, what that is there's a ceremony of reliving, like, in many different traditions. It's like you die to the old ways and then you're
Yeah,
reborn to the new ways. That's really what it represents. I can't give you the specifics,
yeah,
because I made some promises and I don't want to break those promises, but that's what it's about. And you'll see that in, it comes up in Christianity, to die to the old self and
yeah.
allow the new self to be reborn. And it's things like that. So I mean, that's a whole other discussion that we'll do in part two.
Yes.
We'll talk about that.
Today we're going to
But
talk about ancient history, right? So,
yeah, so part one, this is I really like to give everybody the ancient history, and so the process that I went through to access this information was pretty extensive. So I was blessed, by being able to have an expansive experience through my youth, and then I got bored. My dad was a drywaller, for God's sake. It's like that's like one of the roughest professions,
it
that you can
is.
ever insert yourself into. But uh, I was, on the job at 6 years old, and I was running crews of 20 guys by the time I was 19, and I was just bored with it. I was really bored, so I went out and I started my own contracting business, and then I became a contractor, and then I used that to finance my engineering education. So I put myself through
Oh,
engineering school, and then during that process, I also concurrently was studying with other groups that facilitated consciousness. There was a group in California called Sage Seminars. It doesn't exist anymore. Really profound body of work. You might run across people that have taken their trainings, and it's really wonderful. And then I was just focused on getting my career online, getting married, getting my income
yeah.
property, doing
The
all the
usual.
stuff, and still studying voraciously. I mean, like I'm a like, see all my books.
Yeah.
So these are
Wow.
all metaphysical books. So, and I read them all. So I study a lot. So but my wake up call, people talk about getting hit with a 2x4 across the head. I'm a very determined person, so it was more like a 6x12. So it hit me hard. And all of the people that I really loved and all of my mentors that really cared about me, they died. I had 6 people die in my family over 2 years, and then I went into sadness, especially around the loss of my mother, and she died of cancer. And my wife thought that I was sad about our relationship, so she misapplied the sadness, and then she unraveled that. But it all had to happen, because when everything fell apart, and this was in 2001,
Mm.
I knew that I needed real answers. That I could study all this stuff and still be in the world and all that, but I asked the question. It's like, what's it really going to take, you know, to really become conscious, to really awaken And the answer that came through is everything, everything. So that's what I did. So I invested everything that I had into consciousness. So I sold all my properties, I sold all my possessions, I put on a backpack, and I said, okay, universe, have your way with me. Here I am, I'm ready. And I got led to Asia, primarily Southeast Asia. And so,
Which is
I
what?
landed,
Where in Southeast Asia? Like
well, Thailand.
Thailand. Okay.
So I went to Thailand, and I had been invited to teach English in Vietnam, and then I wanted to get up in the Himalayas, and it was a great place to study Buddhism and do all kinds of stuff. And so I studied everything. It was really amazing. And so I spent 4 years in Asia, just traveling all around. Also India. I did a little bit of work in Europe, and got up into Sweden and
Nice.
in Finland a little bit, and so it was really great. So after that 4 year process, I came to Crestone, Colorado, and this is a very, very spiritual community. It's like the Tibet of America. It's like where heaven and earth touch. It's like that mountain, where Moses goes up on the
Yeah.
mountain and speaks to the Metatron. The Metatron is that white plasmic quality of God. It's the Keter, the crown.
Yeah, that was
And
Mount Sinai, right?
Horeb, Mount Horeb. Well, I mean, he did Mount Sinai, but it's also Mount Horeb is what it's called.
Okay, because I climbed Mount Sinai with the Israeli army. I don't know. So
Wow.
yeah,
I want to hear about that.
yeah, that was years and years and years ago. But yeah,
Maybe that's another show. And I
yeah.
apologize. I'm at the end of a cold, so I may cough a little bit. So please be patient with me. So anyway, this place is really incredible, and we have an Ascended Masters retreat that's way up high in the mountains, and we have many different spiritual centers here. We have like 28 different spiritual groups. So we've got Buddhist temples and Hindu ashrams, and we've got this New Age Japanese Shinto tradition. We've got Zen Buddhism. It just goes on and on. We can do. My life here is, I can go to a sweat lodge, and then I can go listen to a Buddhist Rinpoche give a talk. Then I can go do a zikr with the Sufis. I can go do a fire ceremony with the Hindus. I mean, it's wonderful. It's really, really wonderful. And this is where I wanted to live. So I set up a little yurt, a 12-foot diameter yurt on the edge of the wildlife refuge. And my intention was to be there and to meditate. And there was no electricity, no running water, no cell phone, no interference. And I was clear. I was in a really clear space. And the intention was just to allow the earth and nature and the cosmos to have its way with me. And so I did that process for 10 years. And sure enough, I woke up. I woke up. And when I did that, I got my memories. I got my ancient memories. So we're a lot older than what we know. Like we think, oh, well, I've had 10 incarnations or I've had 100 incarnations. It's like, no, you've been on the planet for 100,000 or 200,000 years. I landed here, I crash landed here 230,000 years ago. I was like, holy cow, I had no idea. And then when you start to access those past lives and that information, when you get enough of it, it just all of a sudden it will just really come flooding through, and it's incredible. And I had a really profound wake up moment where I had all those memories come through, and it was early in the morning. The sun hadn't come up. It was still dark outside, and I just went outside my yurt, and I just looked at the stars in the sky and all that other stuff, and I just had to laugh at everything. I don't know. It was like, because a lot of the conceptions and the ideas that I had were even with all the work that I'd done, it was still limiting me. And when I got access to everything, it was like, my God, I was wrong on that one. I was wrong on this one. And it's way cooler and way better than anything that I could ever imagine. And so I just laughed. It was the biggest, expression of laughter I think I've ever had. And I just thought everything was just really funny. And then I had a smile on my face, and it's like, okay, let's move forward and let's figure out ways to teach people Let's figure out ways to access more of the wisdom and the energy that's available in the earth being expressed through the mountains and these wonderful great beings, that are here to help us.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got, a lot of people will say, hey, I have a guardian angel. It's like, yes, you do. In the angelic realm, they're 13th dimensional beings. They love us and they're helping us all the time. We have nature spirits that are here to help us.
Mm-hmm.
We call these are the devas of nature, and they're here to help us. And they can actually move things around and give us signs and things like that. I never knew that they were able to do that. And then we've actually got energies that are inside the earth itself. And so the energy that bubbles up out of the earth for us to use, you can call it Shakti, you can call it magic, you can call it exotic matter. And so we used to be able to work with these energies and apply them to the world. And we used to play with the beings inside the earth. Now, inside the earth, that means telluric. Telluric means in the earth. I'll be using this phrase a lot. So when you hear me say telluric, that means of the earth. And then nature is that's Faye, Faye, and then we have galactic consciousness also. So a lot of this come from the stars, and then there's also other beings that may be physical or non-physical that are coming from the stars to help us. And then we actually have physicalized beings, which are ETs. And so imagine you're hanging out in space. You don't need all this physical, mass because there's no gravity out there. So you're thin and you don't need it. And that looks like an ET.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of them, they're us, and we are them. Um, so we'll talk about, the different races and how all that works. So, but when we get out of the human chatter and we get out of ways and we can get into the silence and be in a space of allowance, you can actually hear, the tones of the earth. Like 7.83 hertz of the earth, you can hear it. It's a low tone. It sounds like a like that. But then there's other tones that are coming out of the earth also. So there's two higher tones, and it's like a so, and they're dissonant, so it sounds like one tone, but there's actually two tones. So when you get out of the chatter and you can get into the science, you can actually hear the earth, the song of the earth, and it's really super cool. There's all kinds of things that we can connect to if we just get out of the chatter and then just get into the wonderment of the earth, of nature, and into the cosmos. So that's what I
Yeah.
did. And
So
so here we are.
7.3, you're talking, the Schumann resonance.
Yes,
7.3,
yeah,
yeah.
that's the Schumann resonance. And right now, it's like people are, if you're measuring something that's 7.3, then you're looking at, well, how high is it? Oh, it's going up to 100. And then it's going so high that it's immeasurable. So we don't know if it's in the thousands.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. It's just like so high and it's vibrating so high right now that it's like the earth is sending her song to us to help us wake up. And we are in the middle of the great wake up.
Yeah.
And so in saying that, I haven't shared this level of information online on purpose because I don't want the body of work to be compromised. So, but now at this time, we have accessed the Shakti, the magic of the earth, and all that work's been done. So I didn't want that to be compromised. So when people come here and they get the information, it's just for them, and I don't put the whole story online. I put some of it, but I'm very careful. But I would like to give you the whole story, and this is the grand story. And so where does it come from? So within each one of us, we have our bodies, that have our DNA in it.
Mhm.
And our DNA is way more intelligent than what we know. So these are it's our cellular memory. So your body, which has been birthed by your mother and her 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 mother, We are trillions of years old through our DNA from our cellular memory, and that's called our ancient biology. And then you can put your awareness in the middle of the universe right now, in the middle of the cosmos. And if you can put your awareness somewhere, that means that you exist there, and therefore you are an infinite being. So your energy, space, and consciousness, it exists in all that is in totality. You are one with the spirit of all things, everything in totality. And then that infinite being, your soul, intersects with your ancient biology, and that intersection equates to maybe about 67% is about normal. Everybody's different, but somewhere around, that. So 1/3 of your consciousness is still out in all that is in the multidimensional verse, and so we have access to all that is, and then that intersects in our body, the backside of the heart, which is the high heart, and then it comes into our body as emotion, and then it's translated to the tiniest little container called the mind. And you'll notice that in our civilization, we're addicted to the mind, and everything is shoved into thinking and the mind and all of that other stuff. I have a lecture on Instagram that talks about the mind. I can send anybody a link to it. So, but that's what we're addicted to.
I
But
call it
that's
brain candy.
yeah, but that's the tiniest container of consciousness. So everything in totality, all that is, beyond space, time, and dimension, and beyond time. And so that's like what the divine says. It's like, I'm not only everything, I'm also every time. I'm everything that ever has or will exist. I am the Alpha and the Omega. Okay. And that I am is also us. So we're a piece of that. And if you ponder the holographic universe, all of us together in totality, if you gather up everything, every conscious being, every rock, every tree, every molecule, every planet, moon, star system, galaxy, and beyond, and we put that all together, then that's all that is in totality. And then not only that, at a subatomic level, each atom has the blueprint of the entire universe in it also. And so it doesn't matter if you go put your consciousness out into the cosmos, or you go within and go into the microcosm. It really doesn't matter. As long as you are trying to improve yourself and increase your knowledge base, it doesn't matter what you do or how you do it or anything. As long as you are trying to improve, you're going to get it. You're going to get access to everything. And that's the nature of reality. And that's really super cool. So it's fun that way.
Yeah, I say we're the heart of the universe. Mother Earth is the heart of the universe, and it goes right into. I mean, what does heart mean? It means core, and every atom has a core, right? So it's in every part of us.
Right. There is a
got one fly here. If I'm swatting, I've got a fly.
Are you doing the wave?
Well, no, it's a fly. Yeah.
We have mosquitoes, so we do the hi. How's it going? It's the mosquito wave. So there is a geometry of consciousness, and that's what we're going to get to in part 3. It's the Merkaba field, and there's a geometry of consciousness that everything has, and it includes, the Merkaba. It includes, like, we're like walking around like a little galaxy, and it includes the tube torus. And I'll describe how that all works and how it all comes together. And we've got these ancient systems that it's like there's some pieces that we're missing out of it. And then just through, my participation in studies of different groups, I was able to piece it all back together. I figured it out. I don't want to say I figured it out. I probably remembered it is probably a more correct thing. It's within with all of us. And then when we use these proper geometries and activate ourselves, holy guacamole. I mean, it really works, and it's really wonderful. So now's the time, for all of us to receive as much as we possibly can and wake up.
Mhm.
So we're talking about, where did this information come from? So if you want to become conscious, we read conscious books, and there are some books that really affected me in a really profound way. One of the books is, Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh.
Mhm.
That was a very powerful book. The Alchemist by Don Coelho, very powerful book. Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield, very powerful book. Um, I've studied Michael Newton's work, Dr. Michael Newton, and it's Life Between Life regression. So there's past life regression, and then there's life between life regression, which is very fascinating. And we can get a lot of information from that. And then Bayard Spalding wrote a wonderful set of books on his treks and travels through India and Persia and Tibet, called The Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. Let me say that again, because
Yeah.
it's a long title. The Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East by Bayard Spalding. And then we got to give credit to Zecharia Sitchin for sifting through all of those Sumerian tablets and coming and giving us the galactic story. The galactic story is there, it's written, and that's in the Sumerian tablets. And so he wrote like the 12th planet, and he talks about the Anunnaki and all of that stuff. And so reading books is really important. And if you ask me, um, I think Carol will have a link or something like that. I can send you
Yeah.
the conscious reading list if you want to include
Yeah,
that.
I'll put it down below.
Yeah. And these are the books that affected me that I recommend, and then I buy them and give them to other people. But there's other many wonderful books that are out there also. And of course, all of the tradition, read the Bible, read the Quran, read the Bhagavad
But
Gita,
Bhagavad Gita.
read the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and read the Hermetic principles. I mean, it just goes on
Emerald
and on. There's
tablets.
so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
We're in the information age, and it's
Yeah.
cool. I mean, when I was a kid, we had to go to the library, and you're trying to get something to do a book report or whatever, and you have to sift through all these books and figure out what you want. You don't know what you want. You're trying to figure it out. And then, you'd have a card catalog, and you have this really bizarre Dewey Decimal System. It's like, who came up with this stuff? It's like, humans are good about making things difficult,
Complicated. Yeah.
and so
Complicated.
if we were to do research, it would take, months to access the information that we can access in minutes, with our smartphones. So a lot of people would go to, in ancient Greek times, they go to the Oracle of Delphi to get wisdom and information. That was, that she would channel the energies of the earth and give that information to people. Well, now the Oracle of Delphi is in your hand, and it's wonderful. There's so much information that we have access to. So that's
We
really
just go
good.
to Scribe. We use Scribe.
Yeah.
It's
So
got
so
everything.
searching stuff and doing stuff online is really powerful. Now, when I was in like Vietnam and in Thailand, they had internet cafes, and it was great. You just go in, you get on a computer, and I had no agenda, I had no commitments, anything, and I just started following these bunny trails all over the place. Now, the internet, remember, silicone wafers is it's crystalline, so really the internet, the education that you get from the internet really is crystalline consciousness. And that's another thing to remember, is that we're moving from a carbon-based life form into a crystalline-based life form,
Yeah.
and that's our
Silica.
destiny. Yeah.
Silica, right? Yeah.
So so crystalline structure is important also. If you listen to conscious music, it will help activate and help you remember. You can do meditations, you can do guided meditations, you can do past life regression. So what I'm saying is, if you read conscious books, if you go to conscious activities,
Yeah.
go to kirtans, go to group meditations, and go to lectures and talks. And there's really something wonderful when all of our energetic fields come together in the same room. We get this thing called synergy, where one person and one person isn't just two, it's more like six or seven or more. And that's magnified. And if you can meditate together as a group or dance together as a group, a lot of people like ecstatic dance. I like synchronized dance, circle dancing,
Hmm.
Sufi dancing. That's what I like. I also teach ballroom dance. I think it's a wonderful practice where two people can just move their bodies and learn how to move together and magnify their love through movement.
Hmm.
So what I'm saying is all of this stuff and your dreams, being in nature, hiking mountains, swimming in rivers, trying to connect to animals. If you ever get a chance to swim with dolphins, take it, because they're
I've
very
done that.
conscious beings. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So when you do all of these things and eat the food that's conscious, stay away from alcohol, that's poison, it'll kill your
Hmm.
consciousness instantly. And if you do all of these things, then guess what? You become conscious.
Yeah.
And so that's the key. And whatever you're into, it could be art, music, dance, just invest, time and energy into those things that feed your soul. And listen to yourself. And if your body and your consciousness like something, then keep doing that. That's good. And if it doesn't, then stop and do
Yeah,
something
move on.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Find what's yours, right? And
right. And that's
certain things
and
you
that's
can
it.
do. I wear 100% linen clothing because
Yeah.
it's from flax, and flax has got a percentage of silica in it. So
Hmm.
that's why the pharaohs had it. And
Yeah.
they say use linen tablecloths. It activates your food, and silverware, like proper silverware. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
activation of the food, and
Yeah.
and
Well, I
consciously.
used to have one of those Berkey water filters, and I'm on a municipal water system, and the water that we get here comes from 14,000 feet way up in the snowfields, and it comes
Mhm.
down. So there's nobody upstream of us. Like I'm afraid to drink the water. Like in New Orleans, oh my God, how
Yeah,
many how many bowels has that water gone through? Hundreds of thousands, of humans and animals and
yeah.
chemical plants and all that. I don't want to put that in my body.
Prescription
But
drugs.
here, yeah, but here it's very pure, and but they have to treat it and they put it in pipes. They have to do it by law. So what I do is I pour that water out into a glass container, and then I have an amethyst crystal in the bottom of it. It's a little amethyst pyramid crystal in the bottom of it, and that kind of activates it in a crystalline way. And then having it in that jug of water, I don't do a tight lid on it. I just have a small saucer on the
Yeah,
top of it, and that allows like the chlorine to off gas. And then the other thing is, if you can find an actual silver coin, a pre 1967 coin, and for a water bottle that's, let's say, maybe like 2 gallons or something like that, get it like a half-dollar size, and put that coin in the bottom with the amethyst crystal. Then what that does is it totally programs your water towards love. And then the silver, it's like taking colloidal silver. It's very healthy for you, and it
yeah. I put
and
three
it's
coins in my filter system. Three
oh,
silver
that's wonderful. So
coins.
you're already doing
Yep.
that.
Oh yeah,
You're
I've
so
got a lot
smart.
of
Look at
silver,
you.
and I also got
Yeah.
a big, huge crystal in there. I don't have the pyramid, but
Wonderful.
I've built a copper pyramid on my property, and I've got a hydrogen machine, so that
That's
somewhat
wonderful. Yeah.
structures the water already, and it's a
Yeah,
big
and if you can
hydrogen
get
machine.
if you can get one of those ionized water machines, where
Mhm.
it splits the water into acid and base, and then you're drinking more alkalized water,
Yeah,
that's good. There's these different mandalas that you can put underneath the water to program it. Definitely read Dr. Emoto's Messages in Water. Our bodies are 85% water. So, the things that we put on our body really affect the quality of that water. And we're
yeah.
we're we're, we're bags of water, hurling through space at, hundreds of thousands of miles an hour. And it's like it's a miracle that we're able to hang on to this planet and actually live. So
Well, I tell
it's
people, even careful what tattoos you're putting on your body,
absolutely.
because it is
Yeah, like, and I
consciousness.
have I have zero tattoos,
Me
I have
too. I
zero
have.
jewelry, I have zero piercings. I This is it.
Mhm.
These things right here, these are my prayer beads.
Yeah. Well, I have
And yeah.
uh well, six-pointed star, but I was in
Yeah.
Peru in the year 2000, and I had a cocoa reading by a shaman, and he told me always wear the six-pointed star because it represented light workers, and it was the light body, and he was talking about the Merkaba, and so and he told me always to wear white. And so I wear a lot of white, even though I live in the
Yeah.
jungle. And so it means something. All structure
Yeah.
means something.
So just remember that white is actually masculine, and it
Yeah.
is the accumulation of all color.
Yeah.
And that's why if you can shine white light through a prism, it will create a rainbow. And those are all the 7
The
colors, the
white
beautiful
light, yeah.
colors.
Well, and you
Yeah.
flip the rainbow, you got a double rainbow. I say there's 13 chakras because it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Oh, yeah,
6,
that's a great
7,
idea. Yeah.
and then 7. Then you go from 7, you go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it gets to 13, and that's why, I've always had the number 13, even in high school hockey team I was on, or the
13
baseball.
13
Yeah.
is a very important number. 13 is the complete number. There's no mistake that there are 13 cycles of the moon.
Yeah.
And if we
Menstrual
would
cycles.
actually use the Mayan calendar, and use 13 months, and each month has 28 days, so that's 4 earth, air, water, and fire weeks of 7 days, which represent the planets. And then 13 of those gets us to 364. And then we do the 1 day at a time, which we just had July 25th.
July 25th.
And that's a celebration. And that's a good time to do like your vision boards and, all of that stuff.
Well, that's the because I
and
studied
get that going.
I
Yeah. But
studied
if
with
we,
Julio Aguilius, and
yeah,
I do
yeah.
galactic signature blueprints, and that's what brought me
Mhm.
to Costa Rica. So it's also 13 is the 13 menstrual cycles. That's all of creation.
Is that are you referring to? I say it Jose Arguleris. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly.
Well, neither do I. And
Yeah,
I actually, before the show, I went on to someone that was interviewing
yeah,
him. How do you say his name again? And I've got all his books, and I mean, it's very
yeah. He's
intense.
wonderful. Do you realize that he took all the Mayan information and translated it, and then he realized that all of that Mayan information in the Great Cycle, in order for us to wake up, that we actually have to do ceremony at these sacred places on the planet. And so when we all come together, remember the greatest vibration on the planet is celebration.
Yeah,
And so when
exactly.
all of us can come together on a particular point, on the planet, at the Temple of the Sun in Mexico, for example, at the Harmonic Convergence in 1987 on August 12th or 13th, I think it was.
Yeah.
Then that activates that
Puncture.
acupressure point on
Yeah.
the planet. Now, the Mexican government wasn't letting him leave, and they were repressing. They were attacking their shamans. So there's a gentleman that he was really into the I am movement, and we'll talk about that. Saint Germain and the I
Yeah.
am movement in part 2. And he said, look, they're not letting me go out of the country. Can you take these sacred objects and take them to all of these different places across the planet and do the ceremonies with them? So I met this man. His name's Smiling Ed. He's a character, and he looks like I love this man. He's a really beautiful soul. So if you ever run into Smiling Ed,
Was
he's a
he
blessing. He's a
putting
blessing.
he putting on the rainbow festivals or rainbow gatherings?
No, he
No?
doesn't do gatherings or festivals.
Okay.
So anyway, so I don't know if you remember Dick Van Dyke and the Dick Van
Yeah.
Dyke Show. So Dick Van Dyke had a younger brother, Jerry Van Dyke. And then he was on the Dick Van Dyke Show, and then Jerry Van Dyke was also an assistant coach on that one sitcom called Coach, and he's there.
Yeah.
And he's the one that goes, nobody knows how I feel, But anyway, this guy, Smiling Ed, he's the spit-in image of Jerry Van Dyke, and he's that guy, and he's such an innocent soul, and he's such a beautiful person. But anyway, he had traveled all, I mean, everywhere, Mount Shasta, Great Pyramids of Egypt,
Chichen Itza.
Rene de Chateau in southern France, Petra, Uluru in Australia. I mean, it was incredible. Hawaii, it was incredible. And his whole life, he was taking these sacred objects. And so he gets to me and he's spending time with me. And at this point, he's like 70, he's a 79-year-old man. And and he wants to hike the mountain. And he's got this huge obsidian um chunk of it's the sacred object. And he goes, I have hiked all of these different places across the planet, and I want to put this is the last thing, the last piece of the puzzle, and I'd like to put that up into the high, we call it the holy source pool. It's the highest lake where everything's created out of. I'd like to put that in there. And he says, I'm gonna hike the mountain with you. And I was like, okay, and I knew I wasn't gonna be able to, but I'm never gonna tell anybody no. And so he got into the trip about a mile and he goes like, I'm not gonna be able to do this. And I said, I know. Don't worry, I'll take it for you. And he's like, you hike up as high as you can. And so we hiked up and we placed this object, this beautiful obsidian stone, and it looked just like a raven. And we placed that into the upper lake, and so we threw it into the middle of the lake and blessed that area. And that facilitated, it was the last piece of his puzzle for his entire life's purpose. And we were able to do that for him. And then we just came down and celebrated, so
Can I add something to that? It's
yeah,
just
sure,
how
please do.
you're describing it here is when I got my message, it's a long story and I don't tell too many people this stuff, but I had a rainbow obsidian and it was carved, like polished, and it had parts in 4 directions. And what I was told is that it's to be placed. It was the capstone. And I actually placed it on this land before I bought it. And I buried it here. And it said in my message that the sky would turn pink purple. And I had met a woman here and she posted on Facebook 3 days. She didn't know anything about this, but she posted 3 days in a row is that the sky here turned pink purple. And so I knew, and I have a picture of it. So maybe in one of our series, I will say why Costa Rica. And I got 54 slides on the medicine wheel and the Merkabahs that were placed here in the 90s. There's 3 above us here.
Yeah, well, there's different points across the planet. Like each planet has a particular sacred geometry to it. Earth is a dodecahedron.
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of pentagrams that are all coming together, and on each one of those nodes is a pyramid. And then within the dodecahedron, there are these like sine and cosine waves that go through, the planet, and those are called dragon lines. And Costa Rica is on one of those dragon lines. So
we have a lot, even like the planetary
it's incredible.
The planetary between Bermuda Triangle, it comes right through the middle of Costa Rica and hits the Easter Islands. And that's a Jupiter ley line, the 5th circuit on the planetary holon. So
it's pretty incredible what's here. It's very incredible. And it's fun, we get to play and have fun. So
it's like we're connecting with your mountain now. I mean, because I'm on Mt Chirripo, and I'm Rio Chirripo means eternal waters. So we're eternal beings. So we are. As light workers, we're here to connect our lights and shine in our own areas and activate other people and other centers. And it's like when I went through Flower of Life, I planted crystals in the island of Moria in Tahiti, and it's a heart-shaped island. And then I went through the Yucatan and I planted rose quartz crystals all through the Yucatan. And then the last crystal I planted before New Year's Eve of 2012, I flew to Belize City and took a bus to Cal and planted the last crystal, and it's a spiral. And
Wow.
Casadeic talked about it in his book, The Activation of the Divine Feminine. And I mean, you're just told or whatever, and I just do it. You just do what you're
Yeah,
told, right? And
I
I
know
say
that's the
yes.
weird thing about it is like we get guidance and it's like we don't even know what is happening. I know I have to go to this place, I have to take this crystal, I have to put it
Yeah.
here, and I'm not really sure about it. And then maybe a week later or a month later, or even years later, then we realize what we actually did. And we have this ability to heal and create consciousness all over the planet. So just remember, each one of us is the key. We're a multidimensional channel, to all that is and to the higher realms. And the key is that when there's enough of us, when there's the 100th monkey of humanity, and we can talk about that if you want to. It's actually, there's a great story description of the 100th monkey in Melchizedek's book, The Ancient Secrets of the Flower of Life.
Yeah.
And it talks about that. So study the 100th monkey. And what it is, it's like, what's the minimum number that we need for collective consciousness? And it turns out it's the square root of 1%, according to Princeton University. They did the studies. So, so what's the square root of 1% of 8 billion? 2,828 people. So it's really not that many people. So that's pretty cool. So if we can get 2,828 people aware, then that awareness will spread all across the planet, and everybody will be aware. And it just goes on and on like that. So do not doubt the ability of humanity to up level and correct itself.
Yeah, I think
And we are correct. Yeah, what we're correcting is the genetic modification of humanity that occurred during Atlantean times. So like, we're like genetically modified potatoes, and then we're learning how to be a crystalline multidimensional rainbow potato.
yeah.
So that's our destiny. But we're doing it. And that's what we're going to talk about. So that being said, I guess we better get busy, huh? Or we're
Yeah.
never going to get to the to the
I know.
body of the work. Yeah, and and Carole, I just want to express my gratitude to you. I can already tell that you're just really a lovely, wonderful person, and I just want to thank you for holding down this container through through which this expanded information and conversation can occur. And I just want to thank all of the listeners for tapping in and listening. And we're all so ridiculously overtasked and busy. It's hard to break away and just spend a little time expanding our consciousness. So I
And
just want to thank
sharing your work,
everybody.
sharing your work,
Yeah, yeah.
your
So
wisdom. I don't call it knowledge, I call it wisdom once
yeah,
you
it is wisdom.
embody
Yeah,
it.
and so thank you for receiving. So everybody. So if you're in a space of judgment or you want to go into whatever, just ask yourself right now, what would it take for me to fully and completely receive this multidimensional, infinite and ancient wisdom, in this session, and how can I receive well? That's the question. When I get into a new spiritual place or activity or practice, how can I receive? How can I receive well? And see how we use the question to do that. We use the question, how or what, and that's what we do to use the question. Okay, so the the thing about ancient history that we have to really be careful about is in this phrase, in the beginning.
Mhm.
And so most traditions are trying to give people a description and satisfy their curiosity of the spark of existence in the very beginning. So, but the thing about it is that time is an illusion. And so when you get into infinite consciousness, there is no time. So what does that mean? That means if I go far enough into the future, I will loop back into the past. And if I go far enough in the past, I will loop back into the future. And not only that, in space, time, and dimension, if I expand myself bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and get out into, past the solar system, our star system, our star system's the Pleiadian star system, by the way. We're part of that. And get into the galaxy and then get into the universe, will actually emerge up through an atom in one of our bodies. And so, and conversely, if we get smaller and smaller and smaller and get tinier and tinier and tiny, we'll emerge out into the universe. So space loops upon itself and time loops upon itself. And so when we realize that and start operating like that, just know that every thought, feeling, emotion, activity, energetic investment that you have in this reality to expand your consciousness and evolve, that makes a contribution to your past lives, your future lives, and your multidimensional selves. And so it's like we are living, all of these lives concurrently. And what you're doing in this life will contribute to another life, which will contribute to another life, which will contribute to another life, which will eventually flow back around and contribute to you. And a lot of the times, when we're getting information like from a spirit guide or a multi-dimensional being or an angel, it's actually maybe a future version of ourselves that's coming back in time to help us. So play with that. That's really kind of fun. So I really want to be careful about saying in the beginning, because when we say in the beginning, it cuts off that cycle, and then time and space doesn't loop upon itself when we say in the beginning. And so that being said, a very, 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 very long time ago,
That's fascinating.
we look at the field of this stuff called dark matter. So dark matter is 85% of the stuff of the galaxy. And then matter and starlight are the rest. But dark matter is the female, it's the womb.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is the absence of all things. And it's a gravity well, and it just absorbs everything. And if you try to look into it, you can't see it because there's nothing to reflect back into it. And the only way that we can ponder these dark matter wells is if, we look at another being. So I'm looking at you, Carole, and I know there's something in between you and me, and I can't see it and I can't perceive it, but I can see how it's affecting you. And then you can see how it's affecting me. So there's something there, but we're just really not sure what that is because we can't perceive it. And that's why scientists are so curious and dumbfounded by black holes, and dark matter, because you can't get any information out of it. And so scientists are really mental. They're really operating from this mental state, and that's fine. It's perfect, but then there's something else that you just can't perceive it. You can't imagine it because there's nothing there. You're not getting any data. You're not getting any input back, but it's there. So some way, somehow, this consciousness swirls around itself, and I'm not sure if it can condense itself. This is the great mystery. How does antimatter create matter? It does. Somehow, then you get these little bits of matter that are created. Now, there's two qualities of matter. Matter, if you put two bits of matter together, they're going to attract each other. And we know this is true from this phenomenon called gravity. So if we have the sun and it has mass, and we have the earth and it has mass, there's a force in between one mass and the other that they will come together and they will collapse into each other, and that's called gravity. And then thankfully, we've also got this other force that's preventing that from happening, called we've got angular acceleration, and that centripetal force prevents us from crashing into the sun. And that's based on our mass and our distance away from the planet and how fast we're going around the sun. So that's what that is. So matter then has a quality of it will attract other matter to it. And then all matter has a radioactive quality to it. All matter has a radioactive quality to it. And this is important to understand in the galaxy. So Matter's being created, matter's being created. It globs on and it globs on, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And as something becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, there's more pressure that is created inside the ball of matter. And when there's enough pressure affecting matter that has a radioactive signature, it will spark into light. And then that's how matter becomes light, because under great pressure, then it will become illuminated. And that's how stars are born and created. There are beings that exist in the dark matter realm. The dark matter realm is the fluid space in between space, time, and dimension. It's the between and between. There is many different consciousness is that exist there, and then they have been able to assemble themselves into a creature and into a being, and that is a dragon. So a dragon exists in that dark matter realm, in that fluid space in between all that is. And it's literally the dragons that will swirl around matter and work together to collapse it and then to spark it. And they're responsible for birthing stars and planets and galaxies and all of the wonderful things that they do. So in this process, then it's important to remember that all of these stars are being created. So let's have fun, let's create big stars and little stars and blue stars and brown stars and red stars and maybe a purple star. And let's just create them and let's scatter them out. Let's assemble them in star systems so that you have little groups of stars rotating around each other. And let's create them like in big groups like galaxies. And then let's create a megastar, this thing called a quasar, which has all of the energy and light of an entire galaxy, and then these stars can actually come together and actually make love to each other and reproduce themselves, and all of this wonderment's happening. So through this process of creation, then the stars are going like, well, we can do this through light and all that other stuff, but what else can we create? Because on my surface it's kind of hot, and it's really bright, but biology can't exist on the surface of a star because it would just get burnt up. So just like if you've ever, cooked spaghetti sauce in a saucepan on your stove, every once in a while you'll get a splatter. There'll be a little burp and a little bubble of pasta sauce that comes out. And so that's how a star creates a planet. It burps it out. Now you got to remember, a star is a massive, massive thing, and the pressure inside of the star is unimaginable. It's there's a lot of pressure there, and so when it burps out a little part of itself, all of a sudden there's no pressure. So then it expands instantly into whatever planet there is, and there is an intention to it. So that star could have the geometric system of a cube, a dodecahedron, a star octahedron, an icosahedron, and all of those are existent. And if you study, Plato on the Platonic solids, he describes each planet having each one of these characteristics. And Earth, we got burped out as a dodecahedron. And so remember, a dodecahedron is a bunch of pentagrams all put together, and a pentagram has 5 points. So our planet is mostly fifth dimensional reality, and fifth dimensional reality is life and nature. So you got to remember that all of nature it has the energetic signature of the phi number, the Fibonacci number, the golden mean, which is the 1.618. And so it's in all of our bodies. It's in all trees, all plants, all nature. So in our bodies, for example, if I take the top of the head, my height divided by my belly button to the ground, that number is 1.618. If I take my hip to the ground divided by my knee to the ground, that's 1.618. My arm has all of these same geometries in it. So that's
we do
the number.
Digital, like this.
Exactly.
This. I mean,
that's
this is what we're reading in the body. You're looking at all the fractals of how we're created.
And that's it. So in the Fibonacci sequence, in the mathematics of creation, the first place that we begin with is 0. And that's the divine feminine, that's dark matter, that's the womb. And so, there is no chicken or egg story here. It's the feminine. The feminine has to be present first. And if you ever feel like there's these guys that are chasing you around all the time, well, that's the nature of creation. And so then the next point that comes is the one. Okay. So the thing about it is the zero is feminine and then the one is created. And so what happens is the feminine moves from the zero to the one. That's dot, first point of creation. And then the masculine becomes zero. And then feminine moves again. 0 plus 1 is 1. So then she moves to the 1, and then the masculine becomes 1. And then they come together and they create a 2, right? So then the feminine becomes 2 and the masculine becomes 1. And they together can create a 3. Then the feminine becomes 3, the masculine becomes 2. They together can become 5. Feminine becomes 5, masculine becomes 3, and it goes on 8, 13, 23, 34, 55, 89, 144, etc. So the ratio of the bigger number over the smaller number is also this 1.618 phi number also. It's the number of creation, and that's what we're experiencing here in this reality. So all of these planets then are able to be created around these stars. And so what the dragons will do is they will adjust the planet based on what kind of life is happening. Is it close to the star? Does it need to be farther away from the star? Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Do we need to increase the rotation or the orbit? Does a day need to be 24 hours, or does it need to be 36 hours, or whatever it is? Do we want to have seasons on this planet? So we'll do an axial tilt so that can go around. And so there's all of these adjustments and things that are happening. Now, if there's no water on the planet, what they'll do is they'll go and gather up a comet, and they'll crash the comet into the planet to create water. So there's tremendous amount of preparation that occurs in birthing a planet and then calibrating it so that it can sustain whatever life it's intended to sustain. So all of these planets are being created, and it's going to be a nature planet. It can be a water planet, a crystalline planet, a lava planet, a cold ice planet, a hot desert planet. It just goes on and on and on. And then these life forms are then introduced. It usually comes out of the mycelium network. And so the mushroom is like the foundation and the basis for all life. And then it can go by like into animal, or it can go into plant. But we're closer to fungus than we are to, let's say, plants, and plants are closer to fungus than they are to us. So the mycelium network is really critical in creating it, and that mycelium can be distributed across the galaxy. Just pick up a rock that has some fungus in it and shoot it across the galaxy, crash it into another planet, and something will survive, and then life will start being birthed there. But the thing to remember is there is a wisdom in creation. It's not just random. There's an intention about it.
So would the dragon actually be like the primal force? Like it's
it is. And it's and they can pop into elemental reality. So you may see dragon in the clouds. You might see it in the ethers, like something. You might and you'll see them in rocks. You'll see them in mountains and rocks. They're in there, and then every once in a while they might phase into physicality and then phase back out.
Is that why they call them the dragon families, the Chinese dragon families?
Yeah, I mean the Chinese.
They have
the Chinese like to control dragons because they're very powerful. No, a dragon itself isn't magic, but boy does it know how to. It really knows how to. It really knows how to channel magic. So
your camera went off, Bob.
A lot of people. Here, okay, great.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry about that. A lot of people say that that dragons are this or that or the other thing, but they can phase in and out of any dimension, any reality, anything. And so the humans, they don't understand it. And what do humans do with things they don't understand? They kill them, But the Chinese are different. The Chinese are aware of dragons, and instead of trying to kill them, they'll try to capture them and manipulate them and
Yeah.
leverage them for power. That's what they try to do. Except for one lady that decided to contribute to the dragons. And this was the feminine incarnation of the Buddha, and that's Kuan Yin. If you look at Kuan Yin, she's standing on top of the dragon. And so Kuan Yin didn't choose to control the dragon. She chose to contribute to it and to love them. And then the dragons loved her back and made her so wonderful. They were really grateful for all the work that she's a dragon lady. Lao Tzu in Chinese mythology, he's a dragon. Merlin in Western mythology, he's a dragon. And they'll incarnate as a human being. So all of these different things will incarnate. And we can get different aspects from different planets that will incarnate in human form. So just look and see. And there's a way to identify, if a person is a starseed or a telluric being, or if they're Pleiadian or Syrian, or if they're bird tribe, or if they're a snake person, or if they're dolphin, or if they're Hathor, or if they're elven. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we can tap into, and that's some of the work that I teach, and it's cool, to get these energetic signatures. Okay, so all of these wonderful planets are being birthed, and then all of these life forms are placed on those planets, and it could be humanoid or bird or reptilian or fish or dolphin, or could just be etheric. Could be any of those things. And so when the dragons are done doing their work, then what they do is they fall asleep into the core of that celestial body. So you got to remember that there's two things that happen in the cosmos. One is that dark matter expresses itself up through each celestial body, excuse me. So every star, every planet, every moon, every asteroid, dark matter is flowing up through its core and out. And it's the womb, it's the platform of creation. And then in addition to that, there's usually a dragon associated to every celestial body. And so when you're talking to the earth, it might appear like as a dragon, for example, but it might appear as something else. It will appear a deva. A deva means the consciousness of a thing. So when we use this word deva, that means it's a consciousness of a thing. So how does that work? So if you want to connect to a tree, for example, it's difficult to have a conversation with the tree. So the tree will create a little energetic, little humanoid energetic thing that you can communicate with. And that
your sound went off.
creates a consciousness that we can connect to. And then if you have a group of trees, like a grove of trees, there can be a deva for that grove of trees. There can be a deva for all of the species of the tree. Like if you want to have a conversation with all of the ash trees, or all of the, I'm trying to think what's in Costa Rica. You probably have coconut trees,
palm trees.
Or you can have a conversation with the deva of all of the trees in totality, or you can have a conversation with the deva of humanity. The deva of nature. Who's the deva of nature? He's that little guy, Pan, with the flute, and he's got the goat legs and the human top. Pan is the deva of all of nature. So if you want to have a conversation with nature, then that's who that is, right? And so what do the Christians do? We don't want you to connect with nature.
Yeah.
We just want you to obey and do the stuff that's in the book. We don't want nature to help you and expand you out of the enslavement, the energetic and intellectual enslavement. So we're going to teach you to fear nature, right? Yeah. And so nature is the devil.
Yeah. The green man. That's what.
Right. So we want you to be afraid of nature. Yeah, and the green man is also a deva of nature, also. So, but these are some of the traps that we get perpetrated upon us. So all of these beings are then being created on all of these planets and all of this stuff, and it's really, really wonderful. It's really fun. And then what happens is that stars die. Stars don't last forever. And the problem is when a star dies, then all of the life and all of the planets and the millions or trillions of years of all of that investment dies with it. And so the consciousness of the galaxy got together. And by the way, There's a great grandmother dragon that's assigned to the Milky Way, to our galaxy, and it's female. Sometimes the dragons are male and sometimes they're female, but ours is female, and she's assigned to the whole galaxy. Anyway, they get together and it's like, we don't want these beautiful forms that we love so much to die. I don't want my fish to die. I don't want my dog to die.
Yeah.
I don't want my plants to die. So what can we do? So what we have to do is we have to get the biology to another planet. Okay. So let's say life is emerging on the Pleiadian star system, and we want to get it over to the Sirian star system, but it's 100 light years away. And we could try to build a ship and then send it across space. We can't go faster than the speed of light, but it would take millions of years to take the biology from one planet and get it to another planet. It's nuts, and it's just not possible, and it's not doable. So we have to create a system through which we can do that. So the first thing we have to do is we have to communicate with each other. So how do we communicate with each other? And that's why I love that picture that's right behind you. You see the web. If you look up into the stars, there's something called the star grids, and that star grid is a thin gossamer thread that goes from every star to every other star. It's called the star grid. And sometimes when you're meditating for long periods of time and you're out, you can see it. The first time I saw it, I was in a peyote lodge, and I came out of the peyote lodge and I look up to the sky, and Grandmother Spider Woman showed me what she does. So Grandmother Spider Woman is the consciousness of all of those filaments together, and she maintains the star grids. And the star grids, that's our communication system. That's how one planet or one star can communicate with another star all the way across the galaxy. So it's like, that's great. Okay, so we got the communication figured out. So we got these souls from the Pleiadian star system, and we go to the Sirian star system. But the problem is we can't get there. So what can we do? So the thing is the fastest way to travel across the galaxy is at the speed of light. So what travels at the speed of light? Light travels at the speed of light. So I got to take these physical beings from the Pleiadian star system, and I need to convert them into light. And if I can convert them into light, then I can send them across the galaxy at the speed of light, but that would still take 100 years. How can I do it instantly? So if I do it instantly, then what I can do is I can fold space. So here's the Pleiadian star system. Here's the Sirian star system. So what I can do is, let's see if I can do this, is I can fold space. And if I can fold space, then those souls go from the Pleiadian system to the Sirian system. Blip, there they are. And then space is then unfolded, and it's done in a localized area. So if you see a UFO like an ET, and it's like a glowing globe, and they know when you see them. I don't know how they know, but they know when you see them. It's like, oh wow, that's cool. Where you're at? And it's like, oh, humans saw us. And then instead of going out, like they're traveling across the sky like this, and then instead of going out like that, they don't do that. They do a 90-degree turn. Bloop. And they do that really fast. And so when we're looking at a light body that travels through space, and when they fold space, it looks like a 90-degree turn, and then it goes back like that.
Is that
so
what's called collapsing time and space?
It's called folding space.
Just folding, okay, not
folding
collapse.
space.
That's
Yeah,
negative.
yeah. And then like, I love the Star Trek movies and shows because it's the same thing. Like they're creating an anti-gravity, an anti-warp field, around their ship, and so they can move faster than the speed of light because they're literally folding space in a bubble as they travel through folded space. And it's cool. It's really super cool. So when they go to warp, that's what's happening. And I love it. And they have a dilithium crystalline consciousness through which dark matter will pass through. and it's antimatter, and there it is. And when you have dark matter that passes through a crystal, then you get massive amounts of light and energy, and that's how it goes. But on the other side of time, then so this is how souls can travel through space. Number one, you have to get converted to light. And then number two, you can travel through folded space, and then you come out on the other planet. So there is a process in which we get converted to light. It's called a star chamber. So you know those old movies with Kurt Russell and Stargate and all that other stuff? It's disclosure. I mean, it really is happening. So there are these stargates that are around the planet. I'm aware of 5 of them. And so what would happen is if you want to travel through space, now who's responsible for the stargates and traveling through space? These are the Orions. The Orions are responsible for that. And the architects of reality and civilization, all that, those are the Lyrans, the cat people.
Lyrans.
And their biggest star is the star Vega. And the Orion system has all kinds of stuff in there. And if you follow Norse mythology, the 9 realms it's the Orion star system is what it is. And they're and Alfhelm and Midgard and Asgard and all of these different places or different realms along the Orion star system. They talk about the Rainbow Bridge. Heimdall is the one that he's the gatekeeper that you can travel across the bridge on, and all of that stuff can happen. Just like watch the movie Thor. It's pretty incredible. And
Thor, yeah, I hear a lot about Thor.
It's great how that works. So just remember that when starlight shines on our planet, and starlight can penetrate any matter, and when it shines into any cavity on the planet and there's water present, it will create a crystal. And so just remember and crystals grow. They never stop growing, and they're like little conscious beings. So just remember, a crystal is starlight physicalized on the planet. And that's what we're supposed to be. We do have tiny little crystals in our blood and in our body and in our pineal, and they're being activated right now. They are. So we're evolving as a species. So it's really pretty cool. So we go. So you're physical. Here you are. There's Carole. Hey, I'd like to go and check out my cousins over in the Sirian star system. I did all this Earth stuff. I became conscious. I'm aware. I want to take my spark of light that I've achieved here and take it there. And so you walk into the star chamber. Your body and your spirit are converged into a being of light. And then once you're a being of light, then you can travel across the Rainbow Bridge. Now the Rainbow Bridge is not just this, it's conscious. Mm-hmm. And the Rainbow Bridge is actually the Rainbow Serpent. And the Rainbow Serpent dives in and out of space-time and dimension and can connect many different places. And there's also
that's all the Mayan stuff, right? Teachings.
Yeah, and there's also the Polynesian people, especially the Maori people, they're aware of the dragons. They'll tell you stories about the dragons. So if you're a dragon, remember you're existing in between space-time and dimension, and if you're helping souls go from one star system to the other, so maybe my finger is the Palladian star system and my nose is the Sirian star system. So go into the star chamber there, check with Heimdall. It's like, is this really what you want to do? Check the last time. Yes, I want to do this. And then I'll touch my finger to my nose, blip, and those souls come across onto the nose. This is a funny analogy. I've never done this before, but it's coming up. And then all of a sudden, my nose is glowing bright, like Rudolph. And then I step out of the star chamber on that planet, and then I take on whatever physicalized form it is. It may not be human. We might be watery beings, or we might be air beings, or we might be, non-corporeal. And then you take on whatever that is, and then you do that, for however long you do it, for a couple 100,000 years. Okay, I did that. Let's go over to Rigel in the Orion system. Let's do this. So we travel around the galaxy. Starseeds do. So about half of the population of planet Earth is starseed, and about half the planet is telluric. So telluric means, remember, that means of the Earth. So that's how dark matter is expressed up through the Earth, combined with Mother Gaia to create exotic matter. And remember, Jose Arguelleros did the harmonic convergence in 1987, and that's where we went from the 9 realms of the underworld, and we went into the 13 realms, into the 13 heavenly realms. I think it's 13, might be 12.
I would think 13.
Yeah, I think it was 13. But remember, if there's 12 centered around the one, that makes 13. That's usually, and that's why, like Yeshua he was there and he created 12 disciples. And if there's a soul that wants to incarnate into more bodies, that soul will create 12 more aspects of it. And then all
Yeah.
13 can create into more bodies. And then each one of those souls can then create another 12 souls, which makes another group of 13, and so on and so on and so on. So
That's the
that's
12
how.
disciples. Jesus and the 12 disciples is
Exactly.
13. They use
Exactly.
that 13 number a lot. I mean, that's the number of Mary Magdalene too, which is right there with the holding
Yeah.
the egg.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. And Mary Magdalene is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And Mary Magdalene was just as powerful as Jesus was. So she was the feminine version.
Yeah.
Remember the Fibonacci spiral? She was the feminine, and Yeshua took on his crystalline quality. We'll talk about that in part 2.
Yeah.
So so how do you become light? Okay, if you can walk into a star chamber, it's already pre-programmed and it just happens automatically, and that's not a problem. But if you do it individually, I can take my spirit and my body and I can merge them together to become light. I can take my masculine and feminine and bring them together to become light. I can take the future and the past and bring those together and to become light. I can take positive and negative and bring them together and to become light. So there's many, many different ways to become light, to become illuminated. So the ancient Lemurians that lived on our planet were light beings. They weren't like Homo sapiens. They were a different breed of humans called Homo luminous. Homo luminous.
Luminous.
And so we were physical, we weren't as physical. And we were like walking around like human glowworms or human firefly, or like you see the little tiny in the bioluminescent bays. I want to say phytoplankton, but I'm getting that wrong. But those little beings, they're there's signatures of nature that remind us that yes, you can do this. It still exists in nature, and these little beings can still do it, so you can do it. So we're still showing you the way. There's still clues that are out there. But
They
just
have green
imagine
eyes. Are those the bugs with green eyes? Because I get fireflies and then I get this other insect that have green eyes. Like they
that's
glow in
interesting.
the
Yeah.
dark.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that, but that sounds like that would be fun for further study. That sounds cool. Yeah, and there's fish that are way down deep in the ocean, and
Yeah.
they'll have a little thing, and it's light, and the other fish are attracted to it, and then he eats them. No, I mean, nature's incredible. Nature
Yeah.
does all of these wonderful magical species, and that's why it's so important that we don't kill it. We don't kill nature, but nature's under attack, and it's because it's this Western idea that we are supposed to dominate nature instead of be part of it and be stewards and receive from it. We can't receive from nature unless we stop killing it, which is kind of stupid. It's like public enemy number one is nature. Well, that's dumb. Let's not do that. And as we become more conscious, we'll come to that realization that we just won't do it anymore. So that's coming on. Okay, so this is how souls like travel across the galaxy, and it's really wonderful, and it's really cool, and all of this stuff is creating. Now, do you remember, like, you see little boys stomping in mud puddles and throwing dirt clods and smushing bugs? Like when I was a little kid, I tortured earthworms for some reason. I put them on a piece of ply and smack them with a hammer to go, ooh, that's and but and it's destructive. It's destructive. And so what happened were there was a group of souls that were existing in between all of the created spaces, and they started to do destruction. And it was fun for them. Destruction can be fun, but it can also get out of hand. And it did get out of hand. And these souls got addicted to destruction. And that is what a laggard soul is. So a laggard soul, this phrase comes from Gnosis in the Law, which is like some of the Saint Germain teachings that Patricia Cota-Robles holds down. I'm going to give you references to where the information is the best I can, so that, like, if you want to do further research, you can go read the book.
She did the prayer for the convergence, right? Harmonic convergence.
Yeah, she was there.
Yeah.
She was there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
my teacher
r-
actually does it every year since '87 in their center. Every New Year's Eve, they play that same.
yeah, they all get together in Tucson, Arizona on
Yeah,
August 12th every year, and they do that. It's like,
I have it. I have the it on CD. Oh, I have it on my
yeah,
computer too.
yeah, I've
The
got I've got the book somewhere in here. I'm not, there's better
era
things I could do than sift through my
era of
library
light,
for
I
you.
think it's
But
called
it's
Light
called
of.
Gnosis in the Law. It's a blue book. It's about that. They wonderful
Okay.
set of, and that's where this laggard soul phrase comes from. So a laggard soul is a soul that can't create, it can only destroy. And they're jerks, like, sometimes like you're dealing with people and they just want to cause conflict. You can't get them to agree. You can't get them to participate. They just want to torture each other all the time. That is a laggard soul. So they're really annoying. So the galaxy gathered up all of these laggard souls. It was like a cancer in the great grandmother's body. And they said, let's take all of these laggard souls and put them into one place. Let's masticize them. That's what happens when your body gets cancer. It will masticize it into one particular place, and then focus all of its energy to heal it. And that's what happened. So the container was what's the word I'm looking for? It's the containment was established out by the rings of Saturn. And then all of these laggard souls were placed on this planet called Tiamat. And this planet Tiamat was in between Mars and Jupiter. And that's where all the laggard souls went to. So if you want to know about more on that, read the Edgar Rice Burroughs book, John Carter from Mars, or Disney did a movie on it, which is really cool. And he describes, so the laggard souls are shapeshifters, and they can assume any form. And they got off the planet and they started messing with Mars. And so that's John Carter from Mars, is how those laggard souls, those shapeshifters, they don't want to create anything. They want to manage the destruction. They were trying to manage the destruction of Mars, and then they had plans for Earth. So this was a big problem, and here we got this playpen, in the containment, and we're flooding it with all kinds of love, and then we got this magical planet that's closer to the sun called Earth, that's full of magic and crystalline consciousness and wonderment. All of these souls would come across the galaxy to incarnate onto this planet because it was a gem, of the galaxy. And so it's like, well, if we really want to make an effect, with these souls, then let's put them next to the gem, and then we can affect them. But things went wrong. So there was an intervention. So each planet, sun, solar system, star system, galaxy has a council on it, and the councils don't make themselves visible, because what happens if you have a higher evolved group of beings, they make themselves visible and they try to contribute to humanity. Humanity will eventually turn against them and try to attack them. And they said, okay, we're done with this. We're just not going to be visible because we know what your behavior is. So we're gonna remain invisible, but we're still going to help you. We're still here. We're still going to help you. And that's why a lot of people say, well, if Jesus was such a great guy, how come he's not walking amongst us? Or why is Buddha not walking amongst us? And that's the reason why. Because if they did, then everybody would, put their awareness and attention towards that person, and they wouldn't work on themselves. Yeshua said, look, all of these things I'm doing, you're going to do. And when you're doing them, you're going to do better than me. But if I'm here and I'm present, you're going to keep looking to me because I can heal. It's like, forget about that. You're the one supposed to work on your own healing. So I'm going to get out of the way and become invisible. I'm going to give you the tools, do the work. And that's what we're supposed to do. So these laggard souls were messing around. And so there was an intervention. So the great grandmother perceived this as a cancer in her body, and the cancer was trying to break out of the masticization. And she goes, I've got to intervene. This is not working. So she reduced herself to the size of an atom, which is the size of the planet Tiamat. And she went there with her seed of love, her core, her essence of love. It's the first cell of the body. You know, when the sperm and the egg come
Yeah.
together, they create the zygote.
Yeah.
And then the zygote that's your seed of love. And that first cell exists in our hearts. So the surgeons know in heart surgery, don't touch that part of the heart, because if you do, it's curtains, game over. And that's our seed of love. So she brought her seed of love to Tiamat, reduced herself to the size of her reality as an atom, to the size of Tiamat, and she was going to explode herself and then combine this seed of love with, the cancer, the laggard souls, and then rebirth the entire galaxy into a higher evolution of grace and love. And that's what she was going to do. Except that she didn't tell anybody, because she knew what she was doing was sacrificing herself, and we weren't going to put up with it. So she's headed to Tiamat. She's reducing herself, and we're like, oh my God, what the heck are you doing? It would be like Marilyn Monroe taking the Hope Diamond into San Quentin prison to say, here I am, boys, I'm here to love you. It's like, oh no, we're not letting this happen. So we jumped in to the mix, and we jumped into the explosion, and there was this horrible blowout. It was just this ridiculous blowout, and it was bad. It was really bad. So there was she was wounded. Damage everywhere. It was just really awful. And so we didn't have any place to go. We couldn't go outside the containment, so we had to come in. So then we all crash landed onto Earth, and that's how we all crash landed here 230,000 years ago.
So that was well, in Julio's work is called Planet Meldak, and it's now the asteroid belt, and that's the fifth circuit on the planetary holon. In the orbit system.
So
and the serpents and the wizards are from there, and I'm a serpent. I'm a red spectral serpent in
you are according
yeah. They're all it's and then they blew up Planet Meldak, and the short-circuited Mars, according to him, and then all the karma came to planet Earth. Maybe just another way of saying it, right?
Right, it is. So there's different traditions that talk about the same thing. So Jose Arguello says that, look, there's Maldek, which is the planet, and then there's Marduk, which is different. That's the Anunnaki's planet.
Yeah.
So there's Maldek and Marduk. Okay.
Yeah, people get that mixed up.
Then there's Tiamat and Nibiru. That comes out of the Sumerian tablets.
Yeah.
It's the same planets. So so Zecharia Sitchin, I think his philosophy was a little wrong, because he was saying that Earth is Tiamat, and that when Tiamat got damaged, that it came into the closer orbit and became Earth.
Yeah.
I don't have that memory.
Yeah,
because I was on Earth when Tiamat was damaged. So the theory is that if you're using the words Tiamat and Nibiru, then that means that Tiamat got damaged, half of it got destroyed, creating the asteroid belt, and then what was left came down and it became Earth. And one of those asteroids became the moon, which is artificial. And then the second theory is that Earth existed and Maldek existed at the same time. And then when Marduk hit Maldek, the whole planet was destroyed, creating the asteroid belt. And then those beings had to come to Earth. And that's what I have memory of.
Yeah.
So, but the other thing that's really weird is we're multidimensional beings coming from different dimensions, parallel realities, and timelines. So if I do the work, like I can regress you back to your memories in ancient Lemurian times, or maybe even to, we can go to our original planets. That's how we help people remember which planet and star system they came from. And they have a particular story, and then somebody else has a story, and then somebody else has a story, and somebody else has a story. And for every one of them is a puzzle piece, and we can start bringing these together and creating the grand story.
Yeah.
And we can do that. But sometimes somebody's on Earth and they're watching the destruction of Tiamat, and then somebody's on Tiamat and they don't see an Earth, and then they see Tiamat becoming Earth. These are different timelines, so they're different expressions of the potentiality, what's going on. So that's really what's it. So what there's a lot more to the story. We've been talking about a lot of stuff, but I'd like to stop the story here.
Yeah, I want to ask one question.
It.
One question would be, well, what about the Zetas talking about Nibiru coming into our solar system right now? I mean, that's
what we're going to talk about next.
Okay, great.
So in part two, we're going to talk about Nibiru and the Anunnaki, and then we're going to talk about all the other galactic races and all the other stuff, and we'll do that. I don't want to overwhelm anybody.
Yeah, it is a lot to digest.
There's a point where we can listen and we get our container full, and right now I'm sensing our container's full, so we need to digest and integrate and do all that stuff. So then what we'll do in part two then is we'll begin with Nibiru, and we'll describe how these beings travel through space and what happened back then. So I
was going to say, we can't eat the whole smorgasbord all at once, right?
Yeah, you got to take your time, one plate at a time. And we're going to the buffet 3 times and filling up our plate. We're going to be pretty full, so we're going to be stuffed. So, anyway, that being said, just like to just another point is, so we're going to stop the story here, and then we'll restart it in part 2.
Yeah.
One of the really powerful things that we have on the planet in collective consciousness, in which we are co-creating the reality. Humans don't really agree on a whole lot together, but the one thing that we do agree on is the calendar. And the calendar, when we're all using the calendar, then we're tapped into numerology. So each year has particular energetic signature to it. Now, the Chinese are saying that this is the year of the dragon, and last year was the year of the snake, et cetera, et cetera. So but the entire planet doesn't do that. But what the entire planet really does do is notice that everybody agrees that this is 2024. This is 2024, right? And 2024 is a 2 plus a 4, a 2 plus a 2 plus a 4, which makes an 8. And 8 is like Saturn energy. So if it's erect, it's dominance and control. But if you can surrender it, it turns into infinite possibility. August 8th is the Lion's Gate. It's a really powerful time for creating and manifesting and creating infinite beingness. So August 8th this year is not just an 8-8, it's an 8-8-8. And 8 plus 8 plus 8 is a 24. The 2 plus a 4 is a 6, and that's love. So this is incredible. So this is a really, really great time. Now, the last time that we had an 8-8-8 was in 2015. So the 2 plus a 1 plus a 5 is an 8. And then we did August 8th, and then that's when we opened up the energies to 8th dimension. So we have the ability to do that. So in part 3 we'll talk about dimensional unfoldment and how that all works. So what I do here, this is a place where heaven and earth touch. There's 4 sacred mountains that create a huge etheric pyramid that's up on the mountain. The Ascended Masters Retreat is in the middle of that. And we hike up to 13,000 feet. We do shamanic journeys at 13,000 feet in front of the Ascended Masters on the Lion's Gate date. And that's August 8th. That's coming up. So if you want to participate, we still have a couple spots left. It's filling up fast. But it's rigorous. I mean, it's a hike. We're hiking Creststones at 8,000 feet. We're hiking up to 13,000 feet. So it takes a whole day just to set up base camp, and then we go up and meet, and do the communion with the Ascended Masters so we hike up the mountain on Friday, commune with the Ascended Masters on Saturday, and then reintegrate and then hike off the mountain on Sunday. So you'd have to get here like on a Thursday night. So it's a 4-day commitment. So if you want to participate in that and your body can get you up to these higher elevations, you're welcome to do that. If your body can't get you, like if you have like weak knees or you're not in the best shape, all that other stuff, we do have another retreat that's not going to the Ascended Master Retreat, but it's here at the Mystic House in Creststone, and that's September 5th through the 8th. And so then what we do, instead of hiking the mountain, we tour around to the different spiritual centers, and you get to, walk around a stupa and do a Buddhist practice. We go up and down the ziggurat and sing, and we do a Sufi practice. We do a fire ceremony at the ashram, do a Hindu practice. And then we do all kinds of stuff connecting to the many different magical places on the planet. So if you want to do any of those things, I'm inviting you to come and experience the magic. I wish I was in Costa Rica. We're gonna have to figure out some way to get down there this winter. That's going to
We
be
will.
fun.
Yeah.
And so I'm on the best way to get a hold of me is I'm on Facebook as Wonder Bob. So I've got two accounts on Facebook, Bob Wonder and then Wonder Bob. So
Yeah, I
try to
saw
get to
that.
the Wonder Bob one. The Bob Wonder one is you max out on Facebook. I got 5,000
Yeah.
friends, so I created another account to meet to people. So Bob Wonder's personal, and then Wonder Bob is my public figure. Instagram, you can see me as Wonder Bob on there, and you can also see me as YouTube, Wonder Bob on there. And then, do you put this? So anyway, you can connect to me those ways. And the other thing to do is just give me a call, 719-937-3052. Again, 719-937-3052. Now, I get a lot of sales calls, so send me a text first with
Yeah.
your name so I know that it's not a sales call, and then I'll pick up and call you back. So just feel free to do that. Now, what are you gonna post this on?
It'll be on Rumble.
It'll be on
And
Rumble.
I
Yeah.
can upload it to definitely to YouTube. I just don't do too much there because I got in a couple of strikes because I said the
Yeah,
V
Rumble's
word, or
great. I love
Rumble is
Rumble.
great,
Yeah,
and then it goes
yeah.
up on Grassroots first, and then I put it on the Lightworkers Institute, which is mine. So I get most of my views on Grassroots because it goes up there first, and and it's
Gotcha.
shared out to different people. I will be
Wonderful.
sending you the links to all that, and you can
Okay.
post it in your or share it wherever you like. And I was going to add to that 8, because 8 in numerology is for psychosomatics is solar plex and base, and it means power and abundance, and it's looping between the two. It's 2 chakras. And when I see it, it's when it goes this way, it's the Zavulia, right? And that's the time space. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it's about coming together. And then 2-4 is 6, and I'm a 2-4-6 in numerology, and 6 is the heart chakra Christ consciousness ray, the gold ray of Christ consciousness that runs through all of us, but it just happens to be my number. So it's a real special day for me, that day, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really going to be wonderful. And then, just on that day, if you just, if if
Connect.
you if you can't get to us or do anything, just take a moment, and everyone should have a sacred space in their house, that they can meditate in, that's just for you, and maybe have an altar in there. I have a vision board on mine, and then I have like crystals, and I have symbols of the divine feminine, and then I don't so just light a candle.
Yeah.
So when you light a candle and you have a little bit of flame, that little flame connects us all together. And then just do your prayers and intentions for what you'd like to have in your physical body, your relationships, your career, spiritual presence, and then do those prayers for your community. And then please, everyone, please, 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 let's pray for global peace. Let's
Yeah.
pray for peace on earth. We always want to have this prayer, pray for peace. So I just want to thank you again, for what you do, and it's really a blessing, to be here. And every person, every one of you, I'd like you to know that there is a love that's available, that's beyond human
Yeah.
comprehension. It's like whatever you've ever experienced as love. Usually, grandmothers are really good about loving us,
Yeah.
in that way. But you can also get it through a parent or a lover or other things. But whatever that quality of love is, just imagine that there's another love that's even greater than that, that's the love of the entire universe, that's a thousands or 100,000 times more than that, that's coming to you. And also the earth loves you too, and if you ever get a chance to get in a grassy area, just lay on your belly on the earth and let your heart connect to the earth, and you'll get infused with this powerful frequency of love. But just remember, all it is loves you. There's nothing that you've done that's wrong. Everything that you've done has brought you to this particular point in time in your evolution. And and all that is loves you. Carole loves you. Wonder Bob loves you. And that love we're giving to you, and we're transmitting that to you. And I just would like everybody to know that they're loved at that kind of level. And when you have this infinite love behind you, and when you have, look at the 13 grandmothers that are behind
Yeah.
Carole right now. It's not just 13. You have 1,000 grandmothers that
Yeah.
love you in this way. And when that happens, when you have that kind of love, you are invincible. You cannot fail. And you want to make your grandmothers proud. So that means you're going to do all of the right things. And we know that you're in integrity. And we know that you're doing everything for yourself and for your family and for your friends to create a beautiful, beautiful experience on this planet. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I really look forward to connecting again in this series. So part 2, we're going to talk about Naboo and the Anunnaki, and then
Yeah.
we'll take it from there.
And you'll be able to share with what happened on the 888, because we'll do it in about 2 weeks, and because you're busy right now for sure.
We sure are. Yeah. And then Carole make a plan for getting, part 2 out to everybody so that they can see that. And feel free to share it with your friends. Feel free to share my information with whoever you want. And events and activities, I paste them on Facebook, Instagram. I kind of have lectures and fun little pictures of hikes and the magical places here in Crestone. And then on YouTube is more music.
Yeah,
So
I noticed that.
yeah, I can do music and things like that. When I get smarter, I got to get smarter, and then I'll figure out how to link them all together. But I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I'm internet challenged,
Yeah.
So.
Well, hey,
So,
you got other wisdom, so that's what counts.
yeah.
Well, I just thank you so much, Wonder Bob, and yeah, I bless you on your journey on 888 and the people that join you. What an incredible experience. I don't think I would be hiking that, but yeah. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom with us, and many blessings. And we'll see you on the other side.
Okay. Blessings. Signing off. Love you all.
Like I say, a starburst.
Oh, we're starbursting. I like that.
Okay.